This is video 2 of my Could I Live There series. I did one recently on I've traveled to England, could I really live there? Now I'm going to talk about San Francisco. I recently took a trip to San Francisco. I have a family member who lives there, so I was able to enjoy a whole week, spend time with them, and it was wonderful. The city is amazing. I had been one other time years ago for just a few hours. We drove through San Francisco, but didn't get to really do anything or see much. So I want to share with you what I liked, what I didn't like, what I found utterly charming and wonderful about the city, and a few things that weren't great. And ultimately, could I live there? Basically, I loved the city, and I am not a big city person. I talked about this in my England video where I discussed London. It was not my favorite part of England. It was my least favorite part of England because it was so crowded. It was full of people. It was a very big, busy city that I found hard to navigate. San Francisco, on the other hand, is a big city, not as big as London, granted, but I didn't find it hard to navigate. I was able to pull up Google Maps, figure out the trains, the buses, however I needed to get somewhere. After just a couple days, I was only there a week, but after a couple days, I was able to navigate pretty much on my own. And another thing that made it easier was I live in the US already. In England, I had trouble because, if you live there, you drive on the opposite side. It's not the wrong side. It's the other side of the road going, it's just, you sit in the other side of the car. The whole thing was baffling to me. I never got used to that. And I was only in London a few days, but it was that way all over. But London made it harder because it was just busier. And I felt like if I'm going to get hit somewhere, this will be the place. In San Francisco, I knew where to stand to get on a bus, which side of the street. It just made it simpler. And that's no fault of England's. That's how you do it there, and that's great. But I did find navigating, the bus system easier, the trains, the underground. The metro, whatever they called it, I don't remember, was not as easy, but the buses were pretty simple. And I learned to, if I wanted to just jot down where to get off, I would jot down the stop before or the street before my stop so that I could be on the lookout. I loved using the buses and the trains. It was simple. And that was a huge thing because I like riding public transportation. I love it. I think it's efficient and interesting. You get to see all kinds of people. And that brings me to some things I didn't necessarily like about San Francisco. The main complaint I might have about San Francisco was the homeless people. It's possibly no fault of their own, but when they got on a bus or the train, oftentimes they were very smelly. And it's just stinky, that's all. I mean, it's, I know they don't have a shower or bathtub to use every day. And I feel bad for them. But that was unpleasant at times. And One time I was standing waiting for a bus and I heard this splashing noise. A man was standing over behind me, probably 6-10 feet away, I don't know, urinating on the sidewalk. So that was interesting. It was entertainment, if nothing else. But those were really the only bad things I can think of about San Francisco. It was wonderful. Other than it was very expensive. It was very expensive. Everything. Lodging, eating out, went to some, events like museum type things, and they weren't outrageous, but, added up, it was costly, other than, rather than me just staying home, that's cheaper. But I also at home, I don't get to see all the wonderful things I saw in San Francisco. So it was worth it. But San Francisco is very pricey. And I don't know how people live there. I guess they have very good paying jobs, because I could not afford to live there. We're getting ahead of ourselves here. Another thing I liked about San Francisco was the architecture. The little bay windows, the kind of a flat window, then off to the side that comes out from the buildings. I'll show you some pictures here. I thought those were gorgeous. It's very distinctive. I mean, I've seen it other places, but this was iconic for San Francisco. Another thing I loved was all the water. The bay was just amazing. With the Golden Gate Bridge and the Bay Bridge going to Treasure Island, then to Oakland. They're both beautiful. And when they're lit up at night, or they have fog, obscuring part of it, it's just beautiful. It was amazing. I've never seen anything, it's just like this wonderful backdrop. Gorgeous. Something else I loved was how helpful the people were. They, I often just ask if I'm standing at a bus stop or on a bus, like, do you know if this goes to such and such, or am I on the right bus? Was this the right one to get on? And people were so friendly and helpful. And every person, I should say, seemed to be in a pretty good mood. I didn't see any really angry people or anything. It was very laid back feeling to me. It was very pleasant. I enjoyed being out. I didn't notice any violence of any kind. It was wonderful. One thing I wanted to talk about was the expense of living in San Francisco. The person that I was able to meet up with, a family member, said that they shopped at Trader Joe's because it was the cheapest place. And I thought, well, that's not the cheapest place. But they said Safeway was astronomical, and Whole Foods, they're both very costly. And I talked to some other people, and they said the same thing. The Trader Joe's was where they shopped. And I went into a Trader Joe's downtown. I was meeting up with my family member, and I had to use the restroom. So I went to the back of the store, and to get there, there were shoppers. It was a Saturday morning, and there were shoppers wound around every aisle in line. I mean, it was so busy. I'd never seen a store that busy before. And I think everybody shops there, or it appeared to be the case. I was sitting at a bus stop waiting to get on a bus, and I struck up a conversation with a young man. He was probably in his 20s, early 30s, I'm not sure. But he said it's, it's very expensive in San Francisco, and that he had 3 small bags of groceries. I mean, just, small bags from the store, nothing huge, and it was $100. And he said it's just everything costs a lot. But he loved living there, and it was worth it. That he didn't have a car. He took the bus, or the bus we were waiting on was called the Presidio Go, and it's free. So he takes that, like to and from work, because he lives on that route. And he said if he needs to take an Uber or something, he tries to do Waymo, the driverless cars. Because there's no tipping. And he said it's basically the same price as an Uber. He just likes it better. With a Uber, you have to tip, or he does tip. So that was interesting to find out. Just some of the everyday ways people are able to survive living in San Francisco. Here are some art pieces that I snapped when I was in San Francisco, around town. Everything was so pretty. I mean, I didn't see a lot of rundown areas or anything, and it was just the hills, with the very steep grades. It just made beautiful pictures, like looking out the front of a bus or something. It was gorgeous. I went to Sausalito while I was there with a friend, and looking out back at San Francisco, it was a little hazy, so we couldn't see the cityscape perfectly, but it is beautiful. It's all white buildings and just stunning with the blue water. And when I was there, I don't think it rained at all. If it did, it was while I was sleeping, because there was a little fog in the morning sometimes, but that burned off, and there were blue skies, and it was pleasant, just perfect weather. And I know it's not always like that, but it was wonderful. This was in November, and you couldn't have asked for better weather. And a few days toward the end of my trip, it started getting cold and a little windy, but it was still pleasant. It was just lovely. So basically, could I live in San Francisco? If I could afford it, yes. The answer is yes, I would love to, but I can't afford it. The rent is, from what I saw, people I talked to a student, they were paying for a 2-bedroom apartment, their share was $1,500 a month. And their other roommate paid $1,500 a month also. Another person, their rent was right at $3,000 a month. So, and this was for a 1-bedroom apartment. It was spacious. It was probably 700 square feet, pretty big, I would say, for San Francisco, but it was very pricey. I mean, I would not be able to afford that. I suppose if I sold my house and used all my money, yes, I could live there for a couple years, but that would be about it. And I couldn't, because I can't do that. I am too thrifty. I just, can't. I can see why people want to live in San Francisco. the whole feel of the place, the beauty of it. I have never been to a city that I loved that much. So yes, I could live there, but I can't live there because I can't afford it. What about you? Do you live in San Francisco? Have you visited there and wanted to move there? Have you visited there and moved there? I can see why people would. I can see it. It's very understandable to me. So let me know in the comments, and if you'd like to be interviewed for living there, this channel, let me know. My email address is in the description below, and whether you live in San Francisco, somewhere else around the world, send me an email. I would love to hear from you. And thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.